Venezuela's Attorney General Tarek William Saab offered a balance on the management of the prosecutor's office during the last months. The northern population of the Gaza Strip is suffering a severe crisis due to the decrease in the flow of drinking water following the shutdown of a desalination plant. And 21 people were killed and dozens were injured in Nigeria after the collapse of the Saint Academy School in Jos North district of the Plateau State. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos. I'm from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Venezuela's Attorney General Tarek William Saab offered a balance on the management of the prosecutor's office during the last months. During his speech, William Saab assured that the actions against the electric system were revealed after the apprehension of a group of people who were seeking to sabotage it ahead of the July 28th elections. The Attorney General added that together with the Bolivarian National Police, the prosecutor's office developed investigations into a group of subjects directly linked to leaders of the extreme right, with an epicenter on the states of Mérida and Táchira, in addition to the capital, Caracas.
Intelligence information and preliminary investigation carried out by the Public Prosecutor's Office showed that the detainees have also received financing from abroad. To support the campaign of a sector of the neo-Nazi far right that is using the election to a climate of terror. An extermination similar to that which the Zionist state of Israel is currently executing in Gaza and Rafah.
And the Attorney General of Venezuela, Tarek William Saab, indicated that these groups operate in border and oil-producing areas.
These groups outside the law are dedicated to seizing, kidnapping, and stealing materials from the Venezuelan electric system, especially in border areas. The most recurring areas, Zulia and Táchira, but they are not the only ones in oil-producing areas such as Monedas and Anzoátegui. But in this case, we will refer to a recent incident that occurred a few days ago, and that the prosecutor's office has asked the Bolivarian National Police as an auxiliary body to carry out rigorous investigation with the designated prosecutors.
We continue in Venezuela as part of his electoral campaign. The presidential candidate of the Great Patriotic Pole, Nicolás Maduro, was received by the people of the state of Zulia to accompany him in his candidacy for the elections of July 28th. With a large gathering, the inhabitants of the city of Maracaibo expressed their support to the candidacy of the current Venezuelan president in the fight against the blockades imposed by the United States and its European allies. In this sense, the candidate for the Great Patriotic Pole thanked the people for their support to defeat the actions of the extreme right wing and promised to continue working for the well-being of the nation. Maduro also condemned the ambitions of the Venezuelan extreme right wing of wanting to reach power by any means of violence against the Venezuelan people.
¿Cuánto han sufrido ustedes?
How much have you suffered from the economic war? Do you remember the time of the resellers and the shortages? Did you suffer? Who asked for the economic sanctions against Venezuela?
Los apellidos, la oligarquía. ¿Cuánto ha sufrido el Zulia por la guerra eléctrica?
The last names, the oligarchy. How much has Zulia suffered because of the energy war? How much did you suffer because of the guarimbas? Do you remember the guarimbas?
¿Se acuerdan de las guarimbas? Ustedes quieren que vuelva la guarimba y la
Do you want the
violencia.
guarimbas and the violence to return? They do.
Ellos sí.
They are looking for criminals and
Están
paramilitaries
buscando
in
criminales y
Colombia
paramilitares en
to bring
Colombia
them and fill Zulia with
para
violence
traerlos
again.
y llenar de violencia otra vez el Zulia.
In this context, the candidate of the Great Patriotic Poll also expressed his rejection of the intentions of the extreme right to privatize education and give away the country's oil to its U.S. allies.
Ustedes quieren que venga un pataruco de presidente
Do you
y
want
privatice la
a
educación.
coward to come in as president
Ustedes
and
quieren que
privatize
venga un
education?
pataruco y
Do you want a
privatice
coward
el
to
derecho
come
a
and
la salud.
privatize the right to health?
Ustedes quieren que venga un pataruco
Do you want a coward to come and privatize and give away Venezuela's oil and gas? If the gringos want oil, it falls here. Cash. Cash. Of course we are going to produce more oil every time. Of course we are going to produce gas. And if the gringos want it, they will pay me in cash at the market price. It is over. Nobody's going to privatize the oil.
Nadie va a privatizar el petróleo.
And the Ministry of Defense of Venezuela met with the electoral representatives of the United Nations in view of the upcoming presidential elections on July 28th. The Defense Minister, Vladimir Padrino Lopez, highlighted the importance of international relations during the presidential election process. In turn, the official pointed out that the armed forces will be accompanying the electoral process on July 28th. He also indicated that the Republic plan will guarantee the order, the security of the voters, the custody of the infrastructure of the National Electoral Council, and will take care of the electoral material. And we continue on topic as we go into the relations between the United States and Venezuela and how they come into play during these elections. All the information with our special envoy in Caracas, Brian Meir.
For the past 25 years, the United States has waged a hybrid war against Venezuela, from failed coup attempts and financing violent far-right opposition groups, to crippling sanctions that killed tens of thousands of people by blocking life-saving drugs like insulin from entering the country. One constant between Democratic and Republican governments alike has been constant aggression against the socialist government of Venezuela.
Basically, there are two imperatives, two objectives that sometimes conflict with one another. The U.S. needs Venezuelan oil, particularly due to the conflicts currently raging in the Mideast and in Ukraine. But the other imperative is to bring about regime change in order to teach the region a lesson that progressive governments don't work.
When the Biden administration announced it was restarting dialogue with the Venezuelan government this month, some viewed it as a positive sign the U.S. government is going to respect the results of this month's presidential elections. But experts on the history of relations between the two governments have their doubts.
I think the idea of reopening dialogue is part of a greater process because the United States is characterized by a foreign policy of doublespeak. The United States often says something publicly while doing something different behind the scenes, and this is what is happening today.
Venezuela's presidential elections will be held on July 28th. Brian Meir, teleSUR, Caracas.
In a radio interview for the program Mesa de Trabajo with Gracia Acosta, the head of the Venezuelan Nuestra Campaign Command, Jorge Rodriguez, provided details on the resumption of talks with the government of the Biden administration.
Representantes del gobierno de la administración Biden nos han buscado.
Representatives of the government of the Biden administration have been looking for us. They have been looking for President Maduro in the last 2 months for us to resume the talks with them. We agreed to participate in those talks as long as the objective and the scope of those talks were made public. And in fact, that conversation took place. We made a very clear statement regarding the fulfillment of the agreements we had reached, within the framework of the mediation of a brother country, of a friendly country such as Qatar. And the only thing I can say in that sense is that a straightforward conversation took place, a conversation in cordial terms, and surely that conversation will continue after President Maduro is elected on July 28th.
Continuará después que el presidente Maduro sea electo el próximo 28 de julio.
And Jorge Rodriguez also stated that he is certain that a victory on July 28th will bring a bright future for the Bolivarian nation.
The most fruitful dialogue that is currently taking place in Venezuela is precisely the electoral campaign. And what has President Nicolás Maduro said about dialogue? That, by the way, there is no political leader in Venezuela, there is none, who has called for dialogue, even in situations of the worst aggression, such as the ones we experienced in 2019, in 2020, in 2017, in 2014, as they are doing now. Because now they are not preparing for an electoral event, but they are preparing to repeat situations of violence that fortunately are long gone. And what has President Nicolás Maduro said? On July 29, that is to say, one day after being elected as president, I will summon all the sectors of the political, economic, social, and cultural life of the country to a fruitful dialogue, so that all of us can work together and promote a great agreement that will bring us closer to prosperity. Do not doubt that we are on our way. Do not doubt that glorious times are coming for the life of Venezuela, for all of us.
Now let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. In Bolivia, President Luis Arce denounced that the right wing and fascism tried to cover up the attempted coup d'etat on June 26 with false speeches. The Bolivian president affirmed that only the right wing and fascism tried to cover up the attempted coup d'etat, calling it a self-coup and using disinformation and fake news in their favor. In this sense, President Arce affirmed that behind this attempted coup d'etat there are economic interests that seek to take possession of the country's mineral resources, such as lithium. On the other hand, he thanked the support of the international community and affirmed that the people and the government will go out to defend the people's democracy whenever it is necessary. And in other news, the government of Mexico thanked Cuba for sending health specialists to the isolated regions of the state of Chiapas. President Andrés Manuel López Obrador thanked the Cuban government for sending around 1,000 specialists in different areas of medicine in spite of the economic blockade that the island suffers. He also added that the professionals would be collaborating in the regions of Guadalupe Tepeyac and Benemérito de las Américas in Chiapas. He also rejected the economic blockade of more than 6 decades established by the United States against the Cuban people. The northern population of the Gaza Strip is suffering a severe crisis to decrease in the flow of drinking water following the shutdown of desalination plants. The facility stopped functioning due to the lack of fuel, which led to more suffering for the citizens who have been under siege by the Israeli army for 9 months. The crisis worsened after the Israeli occupation deliberately destroyed the water wells in the north of the territory. Several authorities and international organizations have condemned the Zionist siege against the Strip as it has been preventing and limiting humanitarian aid to millions of Palestinians. In this context, the World Health Organization demanded on Friday more medicines for the Gaza Strip after warning that only 5 truckloads of supplies have entered the territory. The Director General of the organization, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, said that 34 trucks are stranded in the Egyptian city of Al Arish, and another 40 are waiting in Ismailia to transfer their cargo to the Palestinian territory. Therefore, he called for the immediate lifting of restrictions on the entry of supplies into Gaza, since the Israeli army is blocking the Rafah crossing, which connects the Palestinian territory with Egypt. And the Israeli occupation army withdrew from Shuhaya in Gaza, leaving a fully inhospitable area and more dead and injured among the devastated civilian population. These while keeping up a harsh offensive on the edges of the Strip that has forced the residents to move towards the region's center. Let's see.
When the
Israeli army went in and out of Shujuraya, and we returned to our homes, the destruction wasn't of this magnitude, but this time, when we returned, there was a full devastation. All houses were torn down. I don't want to go southward. I want to stay here, in my city, and I hope that as soon as possible the southern people return to the north and this war ends.
The Palestinian resistance movement assured that the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is personally responsible for the failures in all negotiation attempts. Hussam Bradan, an official of the Palestinian resistance movement, stated so to a Qatari media outlet and granted that all sides involved are aware of it. Braden explained that all ceasefire negotiations, including the current one, have been disrupted by Netanyahu and his right-wing cabinet. The authority asserted that the U.S. is aware of it and added that the Israeli regime is trying to hold Hamas accountable. He reaffirmed that the Zionist prime minister has not shown any real positive sign that could lead to a solution. We have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and also share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back from the South. Russia's Federal Security Service, the FSB, assured that the West is seeking to replace Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky due to lack of responses and failures. The Russian magazine Razvedchik was authorized to reveal in a new issue such classified information until this moment. The FSB asserted that the U.S. State Department and European international organizations have several candidates, including former Ukrainian President Pyotr Poroshenko and the mayor of Kiev, Vitaly Klitschko, among other politicians who may be able to respond to Western interests. In case of a drastic deterioration of the situation of the war front, the West plans to blame all failures on Zelensky, according to this publication. In addition, the briefing unfolded the main goal is to avoid a critical increase in Ukrainians' disappointment with the failures of pro-Western policies. 21 people were killed and dozens injured in Nigeria after the collapse of the Saint Academy School in Jos North District of the Plateau State. According to reports, most of them are students who were in their classrooms receiving lessons. Officials also informed that at least 16 students were rescued and taken to the nearest health center so that the injured could receive the necessary attention. Likewise, authorities indicated that the cause of the collapse was due to the heavy rains in the region during the last few days. We now move on to other topics. On Friday, Chinese authorities announced that 6 people were killed by heavy rains that lashed the southwestern part of the country. In this sense, according to local media, the county of Tianxiang, near the megacity of Chongqing, has been facing a severe storm since Wednesday, with around 7,000 people affected by the rains and more than 100 ordered to evacuate. More than 250 millimeters of precipitation have been recorded, the highest daily maximum on record. China is suffering a summer of extreme weather conditions with torrential rains in the east and south, while much of the north has been hit by a heat wave. And in the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh, heavy rainfall, floods, and lightning strikes have caused at least 38 deaths. The district of Pratapgarh registered the most fatalities, with 11, as reports inform that most victims were working in farm fields or sheltering from the rain on the trees during the thunderstorms, which have also left dozens of people with burn injuries. In addition, in the Kaziranga National Park, in the state of Assam, to the northwest of the country, the flooding of the rivers caused the death of at least 150 wild animals. In this context, the weather authorities estimate that Uttar Pradesh and neighboring states will continue to be lashed by widespread rains and lightning in the coming days. And we go now to Germany, where the UEFA Euro Cup final will be played on Sunday, and where one of the best players of Spain, forward Dani Olmo, emphasized his commitment to bring the trophy home.
Yeah, well, England have shown...
We have a unique opportunity in front of us, and we know it. We are one game away from glory, and we are highly motivated for it to come now.
Meanwhile, England has one of the most talented young players in world football today, and there is no doubt that Jude Bellingham could carry his team on his shoulders into their first UEFA Euro Cup. Jude Bellingham plays as a midfielder for the England national team and is considered one of the best players in the world. He is known for his technical abilities, tackling, vision, and finishing. In 2023, he won both major awards for male footballers aged under 21. The Golden Boy and the Copa Trophy for the world's best over the previous season. Bellingham represented England at under 15, under 16, under 17, and under 21 levels. He made his first appearance for the senior team in November of 2020 and represented the country at the UEFA Euro 2020 and 2024, as well as the last FIFA World Cup. And like this, we have come to the end of this news strip. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and also on TikTok. For TeleSUR English, my name is Beren de los Santos. Thank you for watching.